Welcome back to another feature here on our YouTube channel at Inside Pack Sports. As always, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe at Inside Pack Sports here on YouTube. And you can tell we're talking NC State men's basketball today. Jon Rothstein from CBS Sports recently posted a podcast where he discussed NC State transfer Darion Williams and said he believes he should be ACC Preseason Player of the Year. Hope I'm quoting him exactly right, but I'm paraphrasing a little bit. That was the gist of what Jon was discussing. I've got Ethan Berry with me here on the line to discuss this today. And Ethan, before we get into it, just outside look, big picture look. What was your thought when you heard that Jon Rothstein out supporting or promoting Darien Williams as ACC Preseason Player of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, you're not used to hearing NC State get that kind of publicity, right? I mean, when's the last time you had like a returning player? And I know he's not technically returning since it's a transfer, but I guess a proven college player with that kind of publicity, like I don't remember. I think the last person to get this sort of hype was had to have been Dennis Smith.
Mhm.
But that was the same year. That was the same year that Jason Tatum and Harry Giles were at Duke. So I don't know that he was necessarily above those guys in that sort of hierarchy. I don't remember exactly, but I think that aside, like you look at it and like it makes sense with we've gone over like how highly regarded Darion Williams is, what the numbers say. Like he's been uh one of the two best players on really, really good Texas Tech teams, right? An Elite Eight team this year, a top, but they were a sixth seed last year when State beat them in the tournament. So, again, it's a little jarring to see State get this kind of love, but it's been happening all off season really since they hired Will Wade, and again, Darion Williams is this type of player, right? It doesn't feel like hyperbole or anything like that.
Yeah, look, Darien Williams was first team All Big 12 last season. We know he's one of the top players in the country. Some consider him the top player in the transfer portal. So I think from an accomplishment standpoint, it makes a lot of sense because the other thing I wanted to bring up is if you look at the All-ACC teams from the 2024-2025 season. So if we take a look at Ethan, who could potentially be returning, I'm going to read you the top two teams. Okay, so the first team you had Cooper Flagg, Maxime Renaud from Stanford, Chucky Hepburn from Louisville, Chase Hunter from Clemson, and Hunter Salas from Wake Forest. That was the All ACC first team from this past season. All five players are no longer in the ACC. They've all moved on to the professional ranks. In the second team, you had R.J. Davis from North Carolina, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame, Ian Shefflin, Clemson, Con Knipple, Duke, and Jameer Watkins from Florida State. Of those five, Ethan, you only have one player returning in Marcus Burton, the sophomore point guard from Notre Dame. So when you look at the top 10 players in the ACC last year, only one is returning to the league, and that's Marcus Burton. That doesn't mean there's not quality talent in the league. We know teams went out and added via the transfer portal. We know they brought in some five-star recruits as well. But I think you can make an argument that from an accomplishment standpoint, when you factor in that Darien Williams was Rookie of the Year at Nevada his freshman year. He transferred to Texas Tech as a sophomore, was third team All Big 12. As a junior, he was first team All Big 12, led Texas Tech to an Elite Eight appearance this past season. I'm, he probably should be the odds-on favorite going into the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's easy declaration to make. Like I don't know off the top of my head like who the competition would be. I think everybody else would sort of be projecting. I mean, put it this way: if he was in the Big 12, like would he be the conference player of the year there? Like probably, right? Or at least on the short list in the preseason, right? So yeah, I mean certainly that helps, but I don't know. Even I think if some of those guys were returning, like I'm high enough on Darren Williams to where I'd say if over some of those guys, like you could still take him, right? So, we'll see if any of the freshmen come in and have a Cooper Flag type season, or
Mm-hmm.
if somebody makes a Chucky Hepburn like jump, and certainly those players that will probably happen. But again, Darion Williams kind of sets the bar so high, right? And that's why State valued him so much, and that's why his floor is so high, just based off what he's already done and the type of player he is, um, in terms of his style, I guess, right? So yeah, I again the pick makes sense, right? Like it's hard to really disagree with it.
Yeah, I think the final thing I want to do before we get out of here is take a look at some potential other options. Because full disclosure, last year we submit a ballot for the All-ACC teams here at Inside Pack Sports, and last year in the ACC it was a little bit of the opposite. You had a lot of returning talent, I thought, in the league. I mean, headlined by the ACC Player of the Year from the previous season, R.J. Davis was returning to the league, and a lot of people voted for him, Ethan. But I actually voted for Cooper Flagg going into the season. I thought he was that special. I thought he was a generational talent. He proved that as he went on and won the ACC Player of the Year award. And so I think, look, just because on paper it makes sense and that might be who you should vote on, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to play out that way. So the question I have when I look at this is, okay, well, who could challenge Darion Williams for that going into the year? And I mean, I wanted to throw a couple names out to you. One, if you're looking at the Cooper Flag route, right? If you're looking at one who potentially could do that, I think you start with Cameron Boozer, incoming freshman forward from Duke, a top three player in the country, I believe, in his class, is going to start at that in that center position and command a lot of attention right away. He could potentially be that type of a player, I think, for Duke. Another one I wanted to ask you is you go to Louisville. Louisville, we know under Pat Kelsey, they run an exciting offense. Could a guy like Ryan Conwell come in and have a breakout year?
Yeah,
I mean, he's an option. What about Isaac McKneely transferring to Louisville from Virginia? He's a sleeper pick for me when I'm looking at a potential guy. We already mentioned Marcus Burton. Like Marcus Burton was second team All ACC last year, chose to return to Notre Dame, and he has a chance to have a monster season at Notre Dame with them losing Tay Davis to transfer as well. So, I mean, I think there's multiple guys you can look at, but those are three for me, or maybe four if you want to throw in. Well, I think you should throw in Isaac McNeely. We'll see how that plays out with Louisville. But those are four, I think, quality options that you could put right there in the mix with Darion Williams.
yeah, yeah. I think like when you look at the Louisville roster, to me, there's just too many mouths to feed.
Mhm.
So that kind of worries me with those guys. But again, like an injury, like somebody isn't as good as we think. Like, and that changes quickly. You mentioned Boozer at Duke. That certainly makes sense. And again, like not coming in with the same sort of hype as Flag, but again, sometimes those guys go in and they're very highly regarded and then exceed expectations, right? Zion Williamson comes to mind, right?
Mhm.
When Zion went to Duke, like yeah, he was highly regarded, but he was not, he became who he was kind of at Duke as a player. Obviously, like the highlights and the social media phenomenon of it was already there, but in terms of the overall quality of player, like that happened at Duke, so you could see that kind of jump happen. Um, and then the other, I mean, I think Caleb Wilson
Yeah,
at
from North
UNC,
Carolina.
right?
Yep.
Like he's highly regarded. So we're typically the 5-star guys at UNC fall on their face. So I wouldn't pick him, but I think he's kind of in that range. Um, to where like maybe you talk about it in the preseason, like he'll probably get some preseason player of the year attention, but rookie of the year, excuse me. So yeah, I think there's other guys, and you'll have a couple players pop up here and there who's surprised. Like Wake Forest will probably have a point guard who averages 19 and 6, who goes 10 and 10. But there's different. Certainly, like I mean, you mentioned like out of the top 10 players in the league, 9 of them are gone. So somebody's got to fill those spots in, right? But yeah, I like that list of names. Conwell's a good pick for sure. Um, but again, to me for the setup and the proven production at the college level, like I don't see anybody in the same conversation as Darion Williams right now.
I'm with you. I think Darien Williams is stepping into a massive role at NC State, an opportunity where we feel like NC State needed to go out and land a star. That Will Wade talked about it before landing Darien Williams. They needed a go-to guy. They needed that guy, and they went out and got him to fill that role. He's going to have every opportunity to do so. You mentioned Ryan Conwell. I'm kind of like you on Louisville. I think the roster is so loaded that I don't know. I don't know. It's funny. I don't even know if it's going to be Conwell. Like, would you be shocked if Isaac McKneely has a better year than him? I wouldn't at all. They also add Michael Brown as a five-star recruit coming in. They got a great transfer in Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State. They're returning Kayshawn Pryor and Javon Hadley. I mean, I think Louisville's, in my opinion, has got the best roster in the league, but could that be a detriment to a guy in terms of producing his way to the top? I'm not sure because a lot of times some people vote for the best player on the best team, so maybe that would play out. But I do think Darion Williams is in great shape. Wanted to discuss this take a little bit this morning because I wonder if some on the outside looked at this and said, "Huh, Darion Williams at NC State, how could he be, your preseason ACC Player of the Year?" But I think when you peel things back and you look at who all's returning, what you're projecting for certain players, it actually makes a lot of sense. So wanted to discuss that a little bit today on the channel. Like I said at the beginning, if you haven't had a chance to do so, please subscribe at Inside Pack Sports. Also check out our website, www.insidepacksports, for more NC State coverage.